All right, let's get to it. Switch this up. Hello, everybody. Better Spaces is a health and happiness solution for today's hybrid workplace. My name is Dr. Paul Kachoa with PAR5 Physical Therapy here in Randolph, New Jersey, and I partner with them to bring you this easy and educational workday session. And it's going to be all about balance. Balance is often overlooked, but it's crucial for reducing fall risk, improving athletic performance, and preventing injuries. Whether you're playing sports, hiking, or just navigating uneven terrain in daily life, strong balance and stability and strength in your muscles will help keep you safe and moving efficiently. So we're going to cover the science behind balance and why it declines with ages, when you age, the connection between poor balance and common injuries, some simple tests and exercises that you can do at home or anywhere you're at to improve your balance. All right, a little bit about me. I'm a doctor of physical therapy and owner of PAR5 PT, and I got my doctorate from Mercy University, Ferry, New York, and an exercise physiology undergraduate BS degree from Rutgers University. I'm a certified orthopedic clinical specialist. I've been in the PT field for over 25 years now. And I'm also certified in dry needling, manual therapy techniques, and CrossFit coach and golf fitness coach as well. So anyway, enough about me. Let's pull up the slides here and then let's get into it. So balance and stability, the hidden key to injury prevention and sports in daily life. All right. So again, just like everything I've had in the past, let me see here. We've got this. It's important that because I'm a medical professional, I have to put up this disclaimer. If you're dealing with something specific, make sure that you have a thorough physical examination to get to the root cause of your injury or issue. The stuff that we're going to be talking about is aimed at a broad population, so it may be helpful, but not 100% in terms of if you're having any issues specifically. All right, so got people in the waiting room coming in, people are shuffling in, trying to catch it. Let's talk about balance. What is balance? Balance is this integration of the sensory input that you get, vision, vestibular, and proprioception, and also the output of muscle strength, timing, joint stability, and all of that is under the umbrella of neuromuscular control. So if we dive into it, some of the things that we need for good balance is our sense of vision. All right, our eyes are probably our biggest sensory input device. We're looking at what's up, what's down, what's horizontal, and we're able to track and target things that we need to manipulate or use, or if we need to watch for a threat or a danger or something like that, we could look at that with our eyes. So that's the vision. The vestibular system is also called the inner ear. You can see in that little slide there, it has these semicircular canals. And you can see on this top left of this bottom picture here, the semicircular ducts, they're called. They are lined up in different planes of motion, horizontal, vertical, anterior, so different diagonals. And they're filled with fluid. And when that fluid moves or when your body moves, they basically sense that motion and position, and they feed all that info into the vestibular cochlear nerve. It's basically this nerve that goes to your brain and says, hey, you know what, I am moving or I'm not moving or my position is left, up, down, or whatever my neck and head are positioned. So that's the vestibular system. All right. And then we have proprioception. And these are the nerve endings that come from joints, skin, muscle that give our brain this sensation of like, all right, well, is this muscle short? Is it long? Is this joint extended? Is it flexed? Is it bent or straight? What position is it in? I can move and know the position of my hand without looking at it. I know if it's closed, I don't need to look at it. So that's proprioception, being able to be aware of your body. Now, the integration of all that is basically where balance is and where balance these dysfunctions or imbalance can go. There's this thing called the vestibular ocular reflex, or gaze stabilization. We do it automatically. So if I'm looking at you in the camera here and I turn my head slightly, and I turn my head to my left or right, I can always track and keep my eyes on my target. All right. So no matter what head position I have or what neck position I have, all of that is feeding back into my brain and then activating the correct muscles of my eyeballs to keep them tracked on my target. If I turn my head to my right, my eyeballs turn to the left. All right. It's when the visual input doesn't coincide to the vestibular or proprioceptive input that people become dizzy. One of the classic things is this benign paroxysmal positional vertigo, or BPPV. It's pretty common. It comes on suddenly and it can go away suddenly. That typically happens in the vestibular system, a dysfunction in that inner ear. But then once all those symptoms go away, because the vestibular system and the vision and the proprioception are all interconnected, if you fix the vestibular system, the dizziness or lightheadedness or whatever symptom of imbalance can persist, even though we've got all the stuff in our inner ear fixed. Because our body, our nervous system learns certain ways to move or certain postures. And that's a big thing too, because the postural muscles and our joint stability around, the hips, knees, and ankles and your core, they help to keep you upright and to respond to shifts in movement and your center of gravity. Now, age-related muscle loss, it's called sarcopenia. We lose muscle as we age. It is undeniably a fact. Especially, we lose fast twitch muscle fibers. All right. These are the muscle fibers that react quickly. So, for example, people will slow down as they age, as they walk, one, because of apprehension of falling, but the muscles have lost the ability to move fast because they don't move fast anymore. They stop running, they stop sprinting, they stop jumping. And then you lose that strength, you lose that ability over time. And all of that reduces your ability to react quickly to balance challenges. So good posture, good joint mobility are essential for proper weight distribution and balance and control. So there's other things like joint degeneration, spinal degeneration, tight muscles, that changes your posture. So like simply if just standing up nice and tall, like a series of blocks, building blocks that we put on one another, if they're stacked vertically, then the chances of them are falling over is pretty low. But if we stack those blocks and they're a little bit uneven, they're a little bit shifted to one side, then you can guess that eventually everything's going to fall down. That's the same thing with posture. If we're hunched over, a lot of those muscles in the back, those posture muscles in the picture here, they have to work harder to hold ourselves up against gravity. And our center of gravity, our center where our mass is shifted forward, which puts a lot of stress and challenges on our balance as a whole. All right. So we talked about the nervous system. The nervous system, neuromuscular control. It's basically the brain to muscle and body connection. This refers to how efficiently your nervous system coordinates muscle activity to maintain posture. Now, aging can also slow nerve conduction. That nerve signal, that electrical signal that travels from one end of a nerve, like your brain, to the end of the nerve, or the end of the nerve up to your brain, it slows down. And that adds into that delayed reaction times, impairing your body's ability to adjust when you're off balance. All right. So slower nerve conduction, decreased balance. And these are things that you can train. I mean, if we do not run or do not squat, we lose the ability to do that. We don't jump rope. We don't skip anymore. We lose the ability to do that. I've had people come into my clinic and I take them out to the gym and I say, hey, all right, show me how you skip. And they have no idea. But you know what? As children, we skip all the time. We just lose the ability to do that for a variety of reasons, right? I had one guy come in who said that he had never run in like 15, 20 years, and he wanted to go to New York. I'm like, well, all right, so you're going to be in New York City, and you're crossing Fifth Avenue, and the light is turning yellow. It's turning red. Traffic is coming. What are you going to do? You got to move fast, right? So functionally, getting from point A to point B quickly is one thing that we always need to work on so that we maintain it. All right. So regular exercise helps to maintain strength, coordination, and proprioception. So with age, many individuals become less active and accelerates all this decline of all the components that support balance, all the stuff that we talked about before. So the next thing I want to talk about is, before we get into the exercises, what we have to understand what strategies that our body uses to maintain an upright posture, upright position. It's basically the center of gravity, which is somewhere around our belly button and our midsection here, our core. That center of gravity needs to be balanced over our base of support. And our base of support is the distance, including the area in between our feet if you're standing. If you're sitting, our base of support includes the feet of the chair and the surface area of the chair. If you have a cane or a walker, your base of support is the area that is encompassing the 4 points of that cane or the walker, and your feet. If you are standing and holding on to a shopping cart or holding onto a table, even lightly, that table, that shopping cart turns into your base of support. The wider our base of support is, the more our center of gravity can move. The first thing that our bodies will do in terms of a main strategy that humans use to maintain balance and an upright posture is an ankle strategy. There is a natural sway that happens, and we'll see that in a moment, that the ankles are going to be moving and being active to maintain your balance. The muscles of the lower body, the lower leg, around your foot and ankle, they're going to work to maintain your balance. If your center of gravity translates or moves farther away from that small center of a small base of support that is your feet, then the next thing is the hip strategy. Moving your hips forward or backward or side to side helps to reposition your center of gravity over your base of support. Now, the next strategy is a stepping strategy. If your center of gravity moves so far out that it exceeds way far from your base of support and your ankle strategy doesn't work and your hip strategy doesn't work, then you're going to take a step. And taking that step makes your base of support bigger. And the base of support is bigger, you can maintain your center of gravity in whatever base of support you have. That prevents the fall. Okay? Any questions so far? So we're going to get into, we covered a bunch of stuff in like 10 minutes. So we're going to talk about static balance, dynamic balance, some Romberg test, Sharp and Romberg test, some exercises and stuff like that. All right, so what are we going to do? Let's pull up our two-shot here. So number one, let's make sure that you can see what's going on here. We've got one camera. We got two camera. First thing is you're going to stand up, and then you're going to kick off your shoes. All right, so we talked about proprioception, your sensation of your skin, your feet into the ground, and your ability to move your toes and move your ankles is going to be integral in a lot of these balance tests. Okay, so the first thing is, what are some norms that we want to look at? The integration of proprioception, vision, and the vestibular system, right? All those three. I'm going to test this. We're just going to get into a very narrow base of support. So that means putting your feet together. That means 100% together. It can't be like this and be like, oh, it's together, because the distance between my feet, that piece of carpet in the middle there, is also part of my base of support, as well as the distance underneath my feet. So if I get into a very narrow base of support, then this is going to challenge my ability to maintain my center of gravity over that narrow base of support. So number one, if we're going to stay here, you should be able to stay here for a minute, eyes open, without falling over. First, number one, non-negotiable, this is the test. If you fall or take a step, that's a fail. If you move and your ankles are working, that is okay. All right, your ankles and feet need to be active. If you have weakness or vestibular issues, you're going to have to work at this position. This is going to be difficult. If you can do this for a minute, then we attempt to do it with your eyes closed. This is hands relaxed, close your eyes, and then now you have no sense of vision to give you your sense of position in terms of horizontal, what's up, what's down. Now you really have to pay attention to the proprioception. What do I feel in my ankles and my feet, my lower body? And the vestibular system. How far am I moving out of my base of support? Am I able to maintain that? So that is eyes closed, eyes open with that Romberg test. And then we could start to change and challenge our proprioception by taking our feet and making it more narrow. If I go tandem stance, which is one foot in front of the other, I'll show you the side view as well. My heel is touching my toe, that becomes more difficult. And the same thing, we can try and hold that for a minute. If that is difficult, then we can do a modified sharpened Romberg, which is basically like this, where the ball of my foot is touching the heel of my other foot. So it's a little bit narrow, but not quite straight in line. It's kind of like a little offset. And we could do the same thing. Eyes open, 1 minute, eyes closed. So those are the tests. This is testing for static balance. Now, the other thing that we do in the clinic is get a foam. Now, the foam, this soft foam, will challenge the vision and the vestibular system because, let's put that in the camera, my proprioception, my joint sense, is going to be challenged because this is not a firm surface. When I'm on the ground, my feet are stable. My joints know what they're doing. But if I step on a foam roll, a foam pad here, and now things get a lot more challenging because the surface that I'm standing on is very unstable. So now even with my eyes open, I have to use my ankles and really adjust and work strong and fast to keep my balance over my center of gravity, or my center of gravity over my base of support. There we go. And if you want to do it eyes closed, then eyes closed with the foam, that really challenges the vestibular system. And all of these tests can turn into an exercise. Now, the one caveat that I will say is that we want to do this safely. I'm doing this in the middle of the room because I know my limits. What I would suggest is that you do this with somebody close by, or you do it next to a table or a corner of a wall, so that if you do lose your balance, you have something to kind of catch your fall. All right. Another thing that I like to use, and this is something that you could pick up anywhere on Amazon, it's this half foam roll. So you've probably seen these foam rolls in the gym. It's basically one that's been cut in half. So you can kind of see that and show that in the camera. And I like using this because you can use this for a lot of different things, and it really works on the ankle strategies. So I have the half foam roll. Make sure that's in the camera here. And I'm just going to stand on top of it. And I find, my center of gravity, I find my base of support, and I just kind of get accustomed to it, right? My ankles are going to be working hard, all right? Because this thing is narrow and it's curved. So any little perturbation or movement of my center of gravity is going to throw me off. So I have to use a little bit of ankle strategy, but a lot of hip strategy here. You can see my hips moving forward and backward. And we could also repeat this in eyes closed if you like. And then I could do the same thing that we did. If I turn this like this, I can go into that sharpened Romberg position where I have one foot in front of the other, which is a very narrow base of support, and I can do the same thing. Now, the key thing with this is that we can also change our center of gravity with arm motion, right? So if I go wider, there's a lot more space for my center of gravity to move and my arms are out. So it's like a lot of times when you'll see people in trapeze, they're walking in that little wire, they have a long stick, and that makes their center of gravity a lot more able to move through that space. It balances them out a little bit. So when we're doing these exercises, at very least, we want to try and keep the arms relaxed. We don't want to have the arms waving all over the place. So that really forces your lower body to work hard, right? So this is very difficult. I got to move my hips side to side. If I lose my balance, I can get up there and just try it again. The other thing too is that balance, because it is an integration of our sensory neuromuscular system and our sensory system, if you are focusing on another task, balance is difficult. So I'm talking to you as I'm doing this, and me just talking to you and trying to think about what am I going to say. That also challenges my balance because my brain has to think about multiple things at once, right? If I asked you to do the, multiplication tables or solve a mathematical problem while we're trying to balance, that becomes harder, okay? So all of these things you can kind of work into your daily routine and try and do it as often as possible, because balance is a skill that you will lose if you don't practice it. Okay, so all of those things are basically static balance exercises. Now, static balance is basically just holding yourself in place, not moving, trying to hold yourself in place. But dynamic balance is different. Dynamic balance is actually trying to maintain our balance when we're doing some type of movement where our center of gravity is, in fact, moving. So a very easy one I could try is just standing. And then for this one, you don't have to go very narrow if you can't do it. But we're just going to stand, arms down, relax, and we're just going to go up on the heels and then up on the toes. So up on the toes, up on the heel. So now I'm moving the ankles and my center of gravity, my hips are moving, and then now I have to maintain my balance. This is more dynamic, right? And then another simple one would be to take like a ball. It could be a baseball, it could be a weighted ball or something. And I focus on this, and as I toss this from one hand to the other, and let's just say I want to throw in some of the balance positions that we had before, I would go into that Romberg stance. That's our first movement here. And I could try and track the ball with my eyes as I'm tossing this and maintaining my balance. So that is a challenge. We can consider that dynamic balance, because now I'm multitasking. I'm trying to do one thing while I'm trying to can do this thing, right? So I'm like throwing the ball. I can go up and down. If I go up and down, and I move my head and eyes, that'll pull in a lot of that vestibular system, because now my head is moving. As my head is moving, that vestibular ocular reflex we talked about, being able to track an object regardless of what my head is doing, also adds the level of difficulty. If I wanted to do this with that sharpened Romberg, I can go back into our tandem stance and then do all these things like this. That becomes more difficult. And then we didn't talk about single leg stance. Single leg stance, we could do the same thing. I could just do our static single leg stance, just picking up one foot. And then for most, the norm that I like to think about is being able to try and hold a single leg stance for at least 20 seconds. Now, there are norms that decrease that and lower that per age. But if you're like in your 50s or 60s, then you should be able to hold this for at least 10 seconds. And then you could do the same for your eyes closed. All right, eyes closed is going to be much smaller, but at least try and hold a single leg stance, eyes closed, 10 seconds. All right, so that's something that we could work on too as well. All right, so we did a lot of stuff, ran through a bunch of things today rather quickly. So multitasking, dynamic, stability, balance, vestibular system, the vision, the inner ear, proprioception, all of that. Let's see if anybody has any questions before I close it out here. All right, I'll give you the 30-second countdown, and then before we close it off, I'd like to thank you all for joining me today. You could look for this and many more on demand on any of the Better Spaces apps. All right, this session and all the other sessions are on our Better Spaces apps. So I'll be back Tuesday, June 24th, in 2 weeks. And on posture myths debunked, how to sit, stand, and move without pain. So posture is more than just standing up straight. In this next session, we're going to debunk common posture myth and teach practical strategies for reducing neck, back, and joint pain, whether you're working at a desk, lifting weights, or carrying groceries. So you'll learn the truth about perfect posture and why it's a myth, how prolonged sitting and poor movement habits contribute to pain, ergonomic fixes for workstations, driving and standing, and movement-based solutions to avoid stiffness and discomfort. If you have any questions, you can feel free. You can email me here at paul@par5pt.com or team@betterspaces.com. All right. Thank you. And thanks for coming, and be well. Bye-bye.